So we're going to have flag salute. First, I do have to say, as I always forget, this meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with the open meeting law. I'll call the meeting of the City Council to order. The first order of business will be the flag salute and and as a special treat, our national anthem. And so we'll start with the flag salute. Would the students please lead us in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Sadie Cook, would you like to sing the national anthem for us?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Okay, thank you very much. You guys can take your seats, please. Everyone sit down. So we're going to hold oral communications, which is our usual next step until after the presentation. So I would like to introduce Student Government Day. Student Government Day is a function of our city charter, Section 2.7, which says, annually a day known as Student Government Day in the city shall be designated by the city clerk and by the school department, who shall cooperate with each other in the programming and planning thereof. And it's been a while since we've done this, so thank you all so much for your participation, students and mentors alike. This day was organized by Counselors Jen Holmgren and Valerie Gilman. Rich Francis, from history teacher from the high school, James Cook, the principal of the high school, Superintendent Sapphire, and our city clerk, Joanne Sinos. Thank you all for doing this organization. And so first we have a couple of speakers. We're going to invoke the 3-minute rule, speakers. So Mayor, you're first. You can have as much time as you want.
Thank you very much. Well, also, thank you for everyone putting this together. It was a wonderful day. I have 3 of my students here. 2, unfortunately, I kidnapped and made them stay longer, thanks to the principal and the superintendent saying yes. It was truly a great morning. We had the managers meeting, and most of our managers brought their students, and so they got to see how we worked and what we do before a city council. Hopefully they won't give away our secrets. And then we brought them back to the office, and we discussed what we do in the office, the budget and the protocols and the different commissions and committees that we have through the city. And there was a little time to spare, and I wanted to show them that sometimes we get called. We had Concierge Day in the city of Gloucester, where Discover Gloucester had a bus full of people from all around Massachusetts that were concierges, to show them how we can tell them a wonderful city and boost our tourism, but also economic, if people wanted to come to reside in Gloucester, to build in Gloucester, to live in Gloucester, to start a business in Gloucester. And so I brought them to the wonderful visiting center, which we're going to repair. Thank you. It's amazing. And we had lunch, and we brought them back to school. And then I had 2 other students that were on the council, the school council, and were very informative, and we discussed, again, all the issues that we needed to talk about, and they asked some questions, and so it was a really good morning and afternoon. I really appreciate it. I just recommend that next year maybe we could do 4 hours, a half a day. I think 2 hours, just to get to know each other, open up, and just to understand how government works, and then actually show how government works would be really helpful too. It was great. It's also a relief that our students are so up to date on really government issues, and we actually are going to help them and help us talk about a next public hearing that will be coming forward about what we'd like to do in Ward 3. Councilor Blank, we explained some of the stuff that needs to be done around the high school, and so we had a biology student. She was right on top of this. They're all up to date. They believe in climate change, the 4 I had anyways, and coastal resilience and what we can do, and they're up to date of what's going on with this, the straw ban, and we talked about all the issues. So it really was, and we actually sat around, if you see some pictures, around the table where Jim Destino and I sat down with the students. They saw the tag team. They saw how we work. They saw how we complement one another, or we could kill one another. They saw how the program works, and it was really good. It was a really good, productive morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and also thank you for your support of this day. You and I talked about this a couple of months ago, and you were right on board immediately and made available your staff, and it made a huge difference. I also wanted to thank another one of our partners for this day, the League of Women, Cape Ann League of Women Voters, Nan Andrew and Christy Park and Cynthia Biorley, June Michaels, and Jan Bell. Thank you so much for all of the help that you gave us, too. Dr. Sapphire, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate it. I, too, would like to add my special thanks to the students who've participated, to the participating officials and department managers, and a very special thanks to Councilor Holmgren and Councilor Gilman, who were clearly the twin engines that got this thing to lift off of the ground. Mr. Francis and Principal Cook as well at the high school were instrumental in bringing and resurrecting Student Government Day. I'd like to give just a little brief context, because this Student Government Day is really a bringing together of the old with the new. It's an old tradition which had lied dormant for quite a period of time, but we've now brought it back. But it also is merging with the new standards that are being designed to bring students more in touch with the concepts and the particulars of civics. The Department of Education, since June of 2018, has been developing and modifying the history and social science frameworks, and they've adopted them that set forth the skills, the competencies, the knowledge in history, science, but with big change is now a big emphasis in including civics for students at each grade, pre-K through 12. It also includes a full civics course in grade 8, which we do have. It completed its first year. That's also the grade when students go to Washington, D.C., so it's really a perfect complement there as well. And it also is calling for a project-based curriculum whereby students at various grade levels are going to be expected to complete some sort of a project in civics. 2020, 2021 is the deadline for that to be in place. And that's where this Student Government Day really comes into place because it's a perfect complement to the new requirements, and even more so because it's local. It's about Gloucester, it's about Gloucester's history, and it's about the government which has brought Gloucester through that particular history. So it's entirely possible that this Student Government Day could be a culminating capstone type of project where students are working on local history, and then, as I said, it culminates in the Student Government Day and participation in some form of a meeting similar to what the City Council does as well. So for all of those who put it together, for all of those who've participated, my deepest and sincere thanks. It's really a terrific day. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Let's see. James Cook, Principal James Cook, would you like to say a few words too?
I'd like to start by reiterating the thanks for the council for supporting this and for having us here tonight. It's a great opportunity to have our students who participated in the event today then get to see what happens here, and really connects that to the work that happens. Particularly want to thank Jen and Val for all your hard work on helping make this happen, starting with a meeting where we were throwing out ideas, talking about the past and talking about some of the various ways that this had worked in the past, because it went through many iterations before going dormant and then coming back. So we wanted to revive the best of the past, and as well as Dr. Sapphire said, looking forward to the needs for civics education now in the present. Similar to what Dr. Sapphire said, I wanted to emphasize that, in Gloucester, it's often important for us to look to our past to see what we can learn and to find an anchor there, or to find the foundation on which to build. And so we definitely did that in this case, and we benefited tremendously from the prior experiences of many people here who had experienced this day before in the past. And so look to the past, learn from the past, and then look at our present moment. What is being asked of us? What is being asked of the students in order to engage in government, participatory government in 2019? And so we wanted to have that combination. For this year, what that looked like is making sure that students had an opportunity to be exposed to a wide range of the work that folks do in the city of Gloucester, right? So from the firehouse to the police station, the harbor master, city councilors, the mayor's office, to really get a broad sense of the work that goes on to make a city work. That breadth is really important. We know that through social media and being able to select the media we consume, we often experience a slender bit of information, right? A self-selected slender bit of information at any one time. And so by broadening that out, our students have had the opportunity to see more than they would usually see in a school day, and to get outside of the school and to connect with people they otherwise would not have been able to connect with in learning more about government. So it's extremely important as we go forward that part of civics education will be this breadth of understanding what goes into government. Another thing that I wanted to emphasize in just a couple of minutes that I have here is how important as a school it is whenever we partner with people outside the school to work with people who really understand the challenges of logistics. And I feel like you really understand, working with the school and some of the challenges schools face to be able to get how to make something like this really happen and succeed. It takes a lot of detailed, oriented work that isn't as spectacular as the concept, but the details matter. And so I really wanted to thank you for partnering with us on the details. It's such an important part of making it meaningful for students and being able to make adjustments on the fly, which we've done. I wanted to end by saying this is just the beginning for us. We have ideas for the future, for expanding this to reach more students and more folks in the city, and make these connections stronger going forward, particularly making the sort of connections Dr. Sapphire talked about, and bringing elements of this to not just to the students, the 3 dozen students who participate directly, but bringing that learning to all of the students studying government back in the school. And we have a lot of ideas. This year will be the foundation. We'll build on them going forward. So thank you, everybody. Helped make this day happen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cook. And also like to ask Rich Francis to say a few words. Rich was the lead faculty member at Gloucester High School in organizing this, and we really appreciate your leadership, Rich.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and the kids for all this. One question, well, a couple actually. How many of us are familiar with the First Amendment? Figured, right? Second Amendment. Steve? Second Amendment? Now I have to stop over. See you. What about the Ninth Amendment? See, we all know the amendments that are in the news. We all know the stuff that's in the news, but there's a lot that we don't necessarily know about how our government works, about how our system works. The Constitution. Do we know what the Constitution says? Right? We hear about it in the news a lot. So we really don't know everything. And you know, it's a long read. It's a tough read, weird language to a lot of people. But do we know the system that we work in? Do we know the system of our government? You know, most of us know how a bill is made from Schoolhouse Rock. I'm just a bill, right? Yeah, see, you're bringing back memories now. By bringing back Student Government Day, we're showing our next generation of voting citizens how our government works. We're beginning to give them the tools to be productive, informed citizens. We're being transparent. We're not hiding. We're saying this is what we do. That's just the beginning. As Dr. Sapphire pointed out, the state is making changes to what we teach, how we teach. Civics, as he pointed out in 8th grade, the civics, the 8th grade social studies curriculum will be civics starting in 2020. And as Dr. Sapphire also pointed out, the project-based aspect of it. And this is just the start of something that we can do with civics in the classroom, in the schools, a topic that has been long neglected. We need to give the students the tools to become informed voters when they get closer to voting age. We need for them to be interested in government and how it works. We need for them to be active citizens who understand how our system works and who want to protect that system. There's a Latin quote. For you Latin speakers, don't crucify me if I hammer this, but quis custodiat ipsos custodes? Who watches the watchman? We want a system where the people watch the watchman, or even be the watchman. We want an activist citizenry that begins by teaching them how to be the watchers. Plato believed that we should educate our citizens so that anyone could be a king, a philosopher king. A well-rounded, educated population would give us a government made up of philosopher kings. We can focus on just specialties or just one stream of education, but we need to focus on a well-rounded student: science, math, humanities, arts, civics. This gives us the philosopher king or queen. So by doing this, this gets the ball rolling on the idea that civics is important. For a long time it hasn't been. We've put it on the back burner. As you can tell, I'm a social studies teacher, so I'm going to push for that as much as I can. And I told James I wouldn't push for a 4th year of social studies, but so I won't. Okay? But let me finish with a quote that's often attributed to Thomas Jefferson, but because, as the students know, you should always cite your sources, it wasn't actually his quote. But an educated citizenry is a vital requisite for our survival as a free people. Okay? By the way, the 9th Amendment, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. In other words, they may not be listed in the Constitution, but we have rights, and those rights cannot be violated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we are fortunate to have Senator Tarr come and join us tonight. Thank you, Senator. Would you like to say a few words about civics? Because I know that you're in the middle of that on the state level, and you've heard what we're trying to do here in Gloucester. But welcome, and have at it, Bruce.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and through to the members. That's a dangerous invitation because I know you only have so much time tonight, but I want to say how wonderful it is to see the passion and the enthusiasm and the informed approach that Rich Francis has. It was really great to see you at the microphone, Rich, and for your explanation. And by the way, your closing comments were an outstanding summation of the meaning of the 9th Amendment. That was really wonderful about, as we all know, we have rights that aren't specifically enumerated in the Constitution, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. So great job with that. And I also want to thank Superintendent Sapphire and Principal Cook, and also all the students that have participated. What a wonderful exercise for all of us to bear witness to and to have happening in our community. And again, as members of the council, you're to be thanked as well, particularly Councilor Gilman and Councilor Holmgren, for revitalizing what has been over the years a great tradition in this city. And in fact, I recall that, and Val might have more specific information about this, but my brother Brian was actually the mayor one year in Student Government Day, and he went on to have a very distinguished career in the city's school department, rising to the level of assistant superintendent, where he was able to touch so many lives through our city's educational system. So it is wonderful to see this exercise taking place and to see it being brought into a current status with so much innovation and enthusiasm. And I would point out, Mr. President, that is completely consistent with the direction that we are trying to go in state government. You may be aware that in the last legislative session, we passed a new bill requiring comprehensive civics education in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I was very proud to be part of a bipartisan team in the Senate that crafted the bulk of that legislation and moved it to its final passage. And I'm even happier to report that in the Senate version of the state's fiscal year 2020 budget, which we finished debating last Thursday night, we created a trust fund to be able to help provide the financial resources for the civic education that we've mandated. So we are moving on a very aggressive path to create exactly the kind of thing that is happening right here in Gloucester. So once again, we are on the cutting edge of that, and I couldn't be prouder to see it happening here and to just share a few moments with you to congratulate everyone that's made it possible. And I know, like all of you, I can't help but being excited about the future when I hear that not only have we had a fantastic rebirth of this program and this exercise, but that we can look forward to more continued innovation on behalf of our students, and in the end, really on behalf of our society, because that's one of the reasons that public education exists in the first place, largely created by Horace Mann, who, by the way, is a former president of the Massachusetts Senate, for the purpose of allowing an engaged citizenry to participate in democracy and guide our future in a collective and educated and learned way. So thanks to everyone. It's really great to see this exercise and great to be here with you to witness what we're seeing tonight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Senator Tarr. And we appreciate your coming tonight. Okay, next up, Councilor Gilman, why don't you take us to the next part of the Student Government Day program, please?
Great. So I'm excited that we can all hear from our students about their experience today. So I'm going to call different students up, and if their mentor is here, I'd love the mentor to come up and stand with you. And just take a minute or two. One of the things that we want to let you know is that when you are up at the podium, you always want to get the microphone right there and introduce who you are. And then, in your case, maybe tell us what grade you're in, what year you're in. And then you always address the council. So that's important. So even if you want to really turn around and talk to everybody out there, this is a council meeting. So even though it might feel awkward that you're turning your back to the mayor, she's sat up here before, so she knows the decorum. So look at us and tell us a minute or two about what you did today, what was fun, what you learned. And so let's start with the four people that met with our mayor today. And I'd ask Mayor Safathia, is she still here? Would you come up and stand with them? So Kennedy Rounds, Madison, Coltrajean, Willow Phoenix, and Gracie O'Toole. So come up, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit of something about what you learned today. So thank you.
So, hi, my name is Kennedy Rounds, and I'm a sophomore at Gloucester High. I was one of the kids that Mayor Safathia got to kidnap for a longer period of time today. But today I had the opportunity to shadow Mayor Safathia Romeo Taken through Gloucester High Student Government Day. To begin the day, she took us to the managers' meeting where we saw all departments of Gloucester updating each other on how to better the city. I enjoyed sitting in on the meeting and how the managers made us feel a part of the meeting and asking us our opinions on most, if not all, the topics. I learned a lot today from the mayor. Most importantly, I learned how much love she has for the city and how much she strives to better Gloucester. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gracie O'Toole, and I'm a junior.
I'm Willow Phoenix. I'm also a junior.
And today we got to shadow around the mayor. We went to City Hall and we received a tour of the building, and then we sat down in the mayor's office and got to talk to the mayor about her job and all of the different aspects of what she does.
It was very interesting to learn about how many different government official positions there are and how everyone works together as a team to make Gloucester the best city that it can be. So thank you all for providing us with the opportunity, and thank you for letting us hang out with you. So it's been great. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. So our next students were Serena Ferreira and Vanessa Linquata. Are either of you here? I'd love to ask our new police chief, Ed Conley, to come up and tell us a minute or two about what you learned. And I do want to mention something to everyone here. When we sent out the message that we wanted volunteers, and Safathia Romeo Taken, our mayor, was awesome because she just really supported it from the very beginning. Chief Conley was the first one to respond, and he told me some very special things about his experience. So maybe you could tell us about that, Chief. Thank you.
I did. Thank you very much for having me. I was very pleased to participate in today's event. I recall specifically doing it myself at Chelsea High School. I won't say the year here publicly for the record, but in the late 80s, where I shadowed the mayor for the day and got to do a mock meeting afterwards and really participated. And you know, that's something that had a profound impact on my life in terms of what service means and what government service means. So I was very happy today to have both my students. We started off at the managers meeting, took a tour of the police station. They noticed the effects of seagulls at the police station on my vehicle, so we also we demonstrated how we go through the car wash as police officers together. So it was a highlight of their day. We were able to go up to the courtroom and meet with ADA Amy Conway, who works for the district attorney's office, and we had a good conversation with her and a defense attorney about, you know, what the outcome, that how police, we're not the end-all be-all. We make arrests, we write reports, we try to put a good case together, but as citizens, everybody has a right to their day in court and what that might look like. I think the thing that I'm most grateful for today was that I had 2 young women students, and so recruiting qualified, good women to my profession is something we have to do a better job at. And today's was an opportunity for me to talk about what it's really like to be a police officer, and that the job really isn't all about action and adventure all the time and physical force. It's really about communication and connecting with the community. And they seem to understand that. And they both indicated that they had some interest in law enforcement in the future. So I hope this is just the first start of our relationship. So thank you very much for putting that together.
So next we have Kylie Jackson and Brittany Anderton. Are either of you here? And how about, I noticed our fire chief, Eric Smith, was here earlier. Would you come up and tell us about what you did with those 2 students today? I understand it was pretty fun.
Yes, they were there prompt, which was good. Get roll call going, so they kind of got the full gambit of the start of the day at the firehouse, from roll call, how we go about setting a roster, which personnel are going to work where and why, what goes into the decision making, and how the captain and the deputy handle that, how that affects payroll, and how the financial coordinator gets that information through the system, and that most all of these things are based on policy and procedure, and that, you know, governing is a lot of policy and procedure. That, you know, being a firefighter can be an exciting piece. That's kind of where the rubber meets the road, but behind the scenes are all of this: regulations, ordinances, laws, policy, procedure. So I got to show them all the boring stuff, and the rest of the guys got to show them all the fun stuff. So yeah, they kind of got the full view of, you know, top to bottom of how the fire service operates, and kind of the constraints that we work within, and the goals of the organization. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chief. Next, we have Public Health Director Karen Carroll, who had Emmett Caldwell shadowing. I don't think, is Emmett here? And Karen, I don't think is here. We do have a nice picture of the two of them that you'll see in just a few minutes. Next, we have Community Development Director Jill Cahill, who's here, and she had Juliana Bolognese was the shadow. I'd love to hear about your experience.
Good evening, Council. Juliana also showed up promptly and brought Emmett, so we have a little bit, we did some work together. I think what was probably most interesting for Juliana and I today, I said, why did you choose community development? And her answer was, I'm very nosy and I want to know everything that's going on in the city of Gloucester. And I said, you picked the right department. So we talked a lot about how community development touches pretty much all the other departments. We work with all the other departments to varying degrees. We spent some time, I made sure she met everybody at the annex, and I think a really exciting piece of that for her was knowing how many Gloucester High School alumni are city staff. I think that was a surprise for her, and also how many of us know she plays with our nieces or our nephews or this and that. We talked a lot about process, so it was interesting to hear some of the things that the teachers and the principal brought up. We talked a lot about the public process and how all of our work is open to the public at all times. As she said, she wants to know more. She always wants to know what's going on. I said, everything we do is available to you. Every meeting we take, every public meeting like this, everything we do with the budget is open to you and to the public to take a look at, as well as all of our email, as we know. So, and we kind of walked her through that with, we're posting our annual action plan for the community development block grants. So, and the other piece that we really incorporated into our day is how not only do we work across departments, but we work across levels of government. So we use federal money and apply that to the city through the community development block grant, and how we work with all the local agencies, public facilities, how we apply for state grants, and then use those to improve the city and use matching funds from the city and things like that. So she got a little taste of everything. She saw our Gloucester Fresh video of the seafood show. She was pretty excited about that. And then we spent a little time down with Karen and Emmett in the health department and talked a little bit about some of the work that we do together as well. So we had a great day.
Thank you. So is student Cara Buchanan here? So Cara partnered with Deb Kelsey, who is our library director today. Next, Andrew Topazoglu and Jordan Perrine. They partnered with our harbor master, TJ Shimataro. I don't think either of those students are here, but TJ, I'd love you to tell us about your experience with our students.
Yeah, good evening. I had two students today. We started off, I picked them up at Gloucester High School in the harbor master truck, and the first thing I asked them is, well, how come you picked me for your student government day? And one of them was like, I love boats and I spend a lot of time on the water, kind of wanted to get the inside scoop. And the other one was like, I want to be an environmental police officer and I really want to join the Coast Guard, I think. And I was like, well, you picked the right guy to talk to. So that was a good start to that. I also had Pete come along with me, the shellfish constable. We were going to go for a boat ride, kind of show him the area, but instead the weather didn't cooperate, so we kind of just explained it, rode around to a few public landings and landed in my office. Showed him the boats, showed him the police boat, showed him the new infrastructure and marina down there, which led right into who pays for all of this. So we went into a general fund, enterprise fund, to a grant conversation, and kind of gave the students a big picture on how things that happen in the federal government end up trickling down to the local government, which I don't think they were too aware of, or at least I wasn't at that age. So that was a really good stepping stone. We talked about innovation and mooring reservations and transient boating and tourism, local economy, and how all, department heads work together to achieve a common goal, as well as the city council and the administration, how it's a big cohesive one team, one fight effort. So at the end of the day, we finished up the 2 hours, which went by really quick, and we exchanged some information. And I think one of the students, I'll end up I told them anything you need, I'll mentor you through. You want to go over to the Coast Guard station and see how it is before you sign on the dotted line, you let me know. And I think that'll end up happening. So I think we'll extend Student Government Day down the road in the future with at least one of the students. So it was a good day. Thanks.
Next, we have student Kai O'Neill, and Kai was led by City Auditor Ken Costa. Is Kai here? No? Ken, tell us about your experience.
Good evening, counselors. So I picked up Kai at school, brought her back to the office, and this was her first time at City Hall, so we took a tour at City Hall. We also went over the CAFR, over the financial report. There was a lot of numbers. I think that might have scared her a little bit, seeing all those numbers. And then we looked at the budget book, and we saw more numbers. So there was a lot of numbers, and apparently her passion is culinary. So I think she took an appreciation of all the numbers. And then we also took her through paying invoices. So we paid some WB Mason invoices and took her through the warrant process, how this week is the vendor warrant week, and how the process, how that starts at the department and it flows all the way to our office, and then to the mayor's office and to the treasurer's office. So that way that she knows, she has an appreciation of how the internal controls, the checks and balances of paying invoices. So, yep. Thank you.
Ken? And then we have Cassidy Briere, Michaela Cruz, and joined by Megan Cole as well. And I don't think Cynthia Burley is here, but Melissa Cox, would you come and stand up with them? Because you had, oh, I'm sorry. Oh. I know you, Melissa Texera. Come on. We worked together for 6 years. I'm sorry. Megan, come up and join. What?
Oh, this is so high. I'm so short. So I'm Megan Gallo. I'm a junior.
Talk a little bit closer.
Yeah. Okay.
You gotta talk like right there.
Hello. So I'm Megan Gallo. I'm a junior. And today I went to the courthouse and I witnessed a few court hearings, and I got a tour of the police department. So I learned about the licensing board and the zoning board, and I got to see the City Hall annex, which I didn't know existed. So, and then I got to see some of a school committee meeting. So I kind of went everywhere. I was here, there, everywhere, and it was really interesting. I didn't know most of the stuff today. I didn't know you need a permit for most everything you do, so it was really cool. Thank you for this experience.
School committee member Melissa Texera, would you like to add anything about your experience today, besides the fact that I messed up? Thank you.
That's T-E-I-X-E-I-R-A, Prince. Just kidding. I thought today was amazing. I can't thank you both enough for pushing to have this type of event happen, because one of the questions I asked her at the end of the day was, did you learn anything? And she said there was a lot of things she didn't know. So just knowing that this one little short period of time of 4 hours made such an impact on her. She got to speak to Bill Sanborn, so she learned about the permitting. I introduced her to Allison, the secretary, and she also got to meet Brian Hamilton on the board. So it was good for her to know about that, because I don't think she knew the licensing board existed or even what they do. My favorite part of the day was she wants to be a teacher someday, so how awesome is that when you're a school committee member? And she had a great conversation with Assistant Superintendent Greg Bach about her interest in teaching, and coincidentally, he was an English teacher. She wants to be an English teacher. So she made a good contact. So I told her in a couple years when she's done with her studies to come back here and she can rely on that little interview she had today and maybe work for us someday, because I thought that would be really inspirational. She's great. I can't wait to talk about this more with her, because she was just so inspired, it seems like. So we even had a conversation of why the jail cells are painted pink downstairs. So she learned a lot today. But thank you for the opportunity. It was great. And while I'm here, I just want to say thank you for the appointment to the licensing board. I'm sorry I didn't make it to the meeting last time. We had a meeting going on downstairs. I just want to thank you all very much for that. So
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you very much. And just before, before you go on, Councilor Gilman, I just would like to acknowledge that School Committee Chairman Jonathan Pope and Melissa Texera and Joel Fafaza and Kathy Clancy was here. Thank you, school committee members, for being here tonight. Okay, Val, go ahead.
Thank you. So next we have Counselor Jen Holgram, at-large counselor. I'm partnered with student Kyle Watts. I think Kyle is here, so come on up and tell us about your experience.
So I'm Kyle Watts. I'm a junior, and today I got to shadow Councilwoman Holmgren. And we were able to take a tour of the archives to start, which was really interesting. And we made it up to the 3rd floor as well, which I'd never been to, so that was really cool to see. We continued by coming here and going through how a city council meeting works, and we covered the marijuana meeting that they went through and the process of that, which was really interesting because it taught me how local government works and how laws are passed at the local level. So it was good. Yeah. Thank you.
Counselor, do you have anything to add?
Kyle, it was great to meet you. You are a very smart, observant, and patient kid, as I nerded out all over the place here today. I also want to add that I have worked with Councilor Gilman on this, but really, Councilor Gilman has done the lion's share of the work on this. She really took the bull by the horns, so I was happy to help get it started, but I basically just watched in awe as she helped to get all of these moving parts together, so thank you very, very much.
Next, we have Kevin Ann Chandler, who partnered with Council President Paul Umberg.
Right, so Kevin couldn't come tonight, but basically we shadowed Councilor Holmgren and Kyle, and we did basically the same thing they did.
Thank you. Next, we have Lily Marshall, who I saw here, and I had the pleasure of driving her around, so I got to know her, and Jamie was her mentor. So, Jamie, would you stand up with her and tell us about your day?
Hi. My name is Lily Marshall, and I'm currently a sophomore at Gloucester High School. Today, I toured the DPW with Counselor Jamie O'Hara. I also had the opportunity to speak with Rose Lopiccolo, Mike Hale, and Joe Lucido. We talked about the disposal of waste in the city, and I would also, another thing we talked about is how we would like to increase the education surrounding pollution and waste control. I'm aware there's a program they're using in elementary school, which I thought was really interesting. And I just believe that should follow us throughout our lives and future schooling. I would also like to say thank you for the opportunity. It was extremely insightful, and I hope this program continues. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Danielle Denman and Lauren Elves, and they shadowed our CAO, Jim Destino. Either Danielle or Lauren, are you here? Jim, you have a nice picture with them. You'll see it, but it's really a great picture, so it seemed like you had a great time. So tell us about it.
It was great. Please don't read anything into the fact that they didn't show up tonight, because we really did have a good time. And so it was, you know, you may not know this about me, but I like to talk about government. Yeah, so so I could do this for hours, and it seemed like a 2-hour lecture that I was giving this civic lesson to these two beautiful young ladies who were very attentive. We had a wonderful meeting. We talked about everything from the structure of government with the elected officials on the city council and the school committee and the mayor and the strong mayor form of government and how the process works, everything from, you know, developments to constituent services to council makes the laws and we enforce them. We took them through parliamentary procedure, a lot of constituent service. They listened intently, and after a couple of hours, they You know, Lauren especially, I said, do you have any questions? And she asked me a couple of really hard-hitting questions, talking about what they're really concerned with, which is climate change, and how they want to talk about that more in the schools, how, you know, how important it is. And I told them the things that we're trying to do, including the new project with the flood barrier. And Danielle was taking copious notes this whole time, and it was amazing to me that she was writing so much during all this time. And so I told her, this is the mayor's office. We have a lot of confidential meetings in this office. And then she said, oh, by the way, I write for the newspaper in the schools. So whatever you didn't hear, you might see in the Gillnetter, reading the Gillnetter tomorrow. But it was a great day. It was maybe next year we don't have it on a Tuesday after a long holiday weekend, and we might be just give them a little bit better of a show. But it was early Tuesday morning start. I thought it went well. Thank you to everybody who was involved. Thanks.
Next, we have student Ethan Ulig, and Ethan shadowed our school committee vice chair, Kathy Clancy. I think Kathy might have left. Ethan, are you here? No? Okay. One of the things that I know that they did, because I talked to both of them, is that they went to an MSBA building committee, and they also went and toured West Parish, which was a building that we put together here using MSBA funds. And so Ethan had a tour of that elementary school in Ward 5. So I think that that was a good partnership. So next we have Marissa Neves. Marissa? Okay, Marissa partnered with Mike Hale, and Marissa is interested in engineering, so I think that that was a good partnership. And then finally, before we show a short video or pictures of every picture that we could find from today, Lawrence Scholar, and I was fortunate to be his mentor. So come on up, Lawrence, and tell us about your day.
Student Government Day has taught me about the city, how the city government works. I got to tour around the city hall and got to have a great view at the top of the bell tower. I also learned about the history of the recreational marijuana and the issues it brings with zoning and the laws about that, and I learned how the city council meetings work and how the laws are voted on.
Microphone, sorry. So I'm going to show you a quick video which shows all of the pictures that we got so far, and we hope to even get more, and we'll put them together so you can all share it. But from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to thank the administration for all their support, and also to Mayor Safathia and her team, because if it wasn't for them and their energy that they had, this is a busy time of year. It was after a long weekend. They were so great and so supportive, and all the counselors who supported it. So I'm so grateful that our coming back to this event and making it an ongoing process is something that we all feel passionate about. So I'm excited. So I'm going to spend 30 seconds trying to make sure that the laptop works, and we'll show just maybe 2-minute video. And I'd also ask that everyone brings any leftover cookies home with them, because my family, we're all trying to be healthy right now, and I really don't want to take any home. So enjoy the refreshment. So give me a second. If anybody's good technically, come help me.
So while you're doing that, Joanne, since you're named in the ordinance, would you like to say anything about Student Government Day?
Sure. Okay, so I declared Student Government Day. Unfortunately, nobody signed up for the city clerk's office, maybe because they think that the only thing we do are permits and licensing. I did meet Lawrence Scholar, and I did touch a little bit about what the city clerk's office does, and we do run elections. And also, I believe Councilor Gilman showed him the vault, which had our vital records. We did have something prepared for the students who came, and what the city clerk's office does, and hopefully next year we'll be able to have some interest in the students. I think also if they have participation, I think in the fall, if any student would have any extra hours after school to join us in, during our business hours for our election, municipal election, and preparing the election materials, also registering people to vote, or even to volunteer, like the 20 days before an election, to come into the city clerk's office and register voters for the municipal election or the upcoming presidential election. So I'm hoping maybe, next year will be a little more interest in the city clerk's office or any other department.
Okay, so volume, picture. Phew. Phew.
So I'll entertain a motion to declare Student Government Day a success. Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much, everyone. That was great. All right. We skipped over oral communications, so we'll do that now. The public shall have the opportunity at every regularly scheduled meeting to be heard under oral communications on matters not appearing on the agenda. Oral communications shall allow any resident who has a request or complaint of any nature relative to city business to appear before the council, state their problem without debate, and the matter shall be referred to the proper agency through the office of the mayor. The resident will be notified within a 2-week period relative to the disposition of same, and a copy shall be forwarded to the city clerk. Persons speaking under oral communication shall be limited to 3 minutes each. Council President shall not allow complaints as to individual performance. Anyone for oral communications today? Okay, Madam Clerk, next order of business.
Next is the consent agenda.
Any councilors wish to pull anything off the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We have a unanimous consent agenda too, which is a addendum to the mayor's report, request approval for recreational trails program grant in the amount of $49,000 for the Gloucester watershed and open public access upgrades, refer to B and F.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Next order of business is the Budget and Finance Standing Committee report of May 23rd.
Councilor Memhard as Vice Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Budget and Finance Chair Melissa Texera, who is in Copenhagen, recovering from the intense review of the city budget. Excuse me, that was Councilor Melissa Cox. I apologize for misspeaking. We have 12 matters for council action and Budget and Finance from Budget and Finance tonight. We had a busy meeting. I think that was intentional on our chair's part, leaving us with some heavy lifting in her absence. We're both seeking council authorization to spend some money. We're seeking council authorization to accept some money, and we're also seeking permission to apply for some grant funding from the state coastal resilience funds. The first item on a motion by Councilor Hecht, seconded by myself, with Councilor Cox absent, Budget and Finance voted 2 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council accept under Mass General Law 44, Section 53A, a private grant for $20,000 for fiscal year 19, Beth Israel Leahy Health Beverly and Addison Gilbert 2019 Community Collaborative Grant Regional Senior Transportation Program for the purpose of a regional senior transportation program for the communities of Gloucester, Rockport, Essex, and Manchester by the Sea. The purpose of this grant is to extend existing transportation systems to include trips to grocery stores, the farmers market, and the food pantry, as well as Gloucester Stacy Boulevard and trails and recreation areas throughout Cape Ann. The grant funds must be expended by December 31st, 2019, and there is no local match for this grant, and I so move. Second.
Anything further?
Briefly, it's a pilot program that Karen Carroll was very pleased to present to us, and we're looking forward to working through the Addison Gilbert Hospital and Israel Beth Leahy Health in implementing it.
Great. Anybody else? Okay, it's a simple majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next.
Budget and Finance Committee voted 2 in favor, 1 opposed, to recommend 1 absent. Excuse me. She wasn't opposed. To recommend that the City Council accept under Mass General Law 4453A a cash donation in the amount of $2,000 from the Minigu Family Foundation to be used to the benefit of ongoing efforts of the Harbor Masters Department. Did I so move?
Moved and seconded. Anything else?
This is a generous donation that we're very pleased to accept.
Okay.
And the Harbor Master has duly recognized the contribution.
Wonderful. Anybody else? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next.
Budget and Finance Committee voted 2 in favor, 1 absent, to recommend City Council approve a special budgetary transfer, 2019 SBT 10, in the amount of $20,000 from the account as specified Water OM Other Supplies to account as specified Water PS Overtime Labor, and this is for the purpose of funding overtime costs for the Water Department personnel to work at Wallace, Haskell, and Goose Cove reservoirs, and to put in place the dam vegetation at those sites. And I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other?
This is a continuation of an existing program which the dams are benefiting from.
Okay. And it's a transfer of funds, so just a simple majority. Anybody else comment? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next.
The 5th item before us, we're moving right through them here, on a motion by Budget and Finance Committee, 2 in favor, 1 absent. The City Budget and Finance recommends that the City Council approve Supplemental Appropriation 2019 SA 35 in the amount of $10,000 from the Capital Project Stabilization Fund undesignated fund balance account as specified to sale GHS float repairs, CP stabilization, site improvements account as specified for the purpose of funding repairs to the sale GHS float system, which is located in our inner harbor, and I so move.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any comment?
Is TJ still here? No. Yeah. No, that's perfectly all right. We did he and his office did a careful study. This is a expenditure to rehabilitate our existing floats, which have a value in excess of $100,000. The sailing center floats right in our middle harbor. They take a fair beating, and the funds are anticipated to extend the useful lifetime of these floats for a number of years, offsetting funds from other private, and it is offset with some funds from other private donations.
Thank you. Councilor Gilman, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to support this motion. I just want to comment. My son had the benefit of being on Sail GHS when he was at O'Malley. It's a wonderful program taught by volunteers. Our team is good. And we made it to the finals this year and lost, I think it was to Cohasset, if I'm not mistaken. But the team did great. So I think it's important for our young athletes, and we should be proud that we have a sailing team in a community like Gloucester. So thank you for making this happen, administration, and I'll be supporting this.
Thank you, Councilor. Anybody else? Okay, it's a supplemental no, it's a roll, huh? It's a roll call. I was going to say that. Roll call, Joanne. Go ahead. Roll call vote.
Councilor Blank. Yes. Councilor Lindbergh. Yes. Councilor Memhard.
Yes, please.
Councilor Nolan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Hara.
Yes.
Councilor Cox-Zabit. Councilor Gilman.
Yes.
Councilor Hecht.
Yes.
Councilor Holcomb.
Yes.
The motion for supplemental appropriation 2019 SA 35 passes on a vote of 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 absent.
Thank you. Next, Councilor Memhard.
Next up, Budget and Finance voted 2 in favor, 1 absent, to recommend that the City Council approve Supplemental Appropriation 2019 SA 36 in the amount of $37,000 from our Capital Project Stabilization Fund undesignated fund balance account as specified to our Nissan Leaf purchase CP stabilization vehicle account. And this is for the purpose of funding the purchase of 3 2016 Nissan Leaf vehicles per our purchase agreement option included in the underlying lease agreement with Nissan Motors. And I so move.
Second. Moved and seconded. Councilor?
At this time, we have 3 2016 Nissan Leafs, which are at the end of their lease term, and the city has the option to purchase them. The total cost for the city is about 40% of the sticker price, with each vehicle having a very relatively low mileage. We were told that that last year the city purchased 3 2015 Nissan Leafs that were coming off their 3-year lease term, and these vehicles are electric and cost-efficient and economic for the city, and particularly for in-city staff travel.
Okay, this is a roll call vote. Anybody else want to question? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Councilor LeBlanc.
Yes.
Councilor Lundberg.
Yep.
Councilor Memhard.
Yes.
Councilor Nolan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Hara.
Yes.
Councilor Gilman.
Yes.
Councilor Heck.
Yes.
Councilor Holgram.
Yes.
Supplemental appropriation 2019 SA 36 passes on a motion of 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 absent.
Thank you. Next, Councilor Memhard.
Next item, the Budget and Finance Committee voted unanimously, 2 in favor, 1 absent, to recommend that the City Council, in accordance with CGO Section 16.1, permit the Planning Division of the Community Development Office to apply for a Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant, MVP, through the Mass Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs for a grant total of $2 million. This is for the purpose of building out a Gloucester High School flood barrier in order to better protect the Gloucester High School campus. This grant requires a minimum local cash match of 25% that will be identified through a loan authorization request if we are awarded the grant. And I so move.
Second. Moved and seconded. Do you want to discuss any further?
The grant office is moving very aggressively on this. We fingers crossed that we will be qualifying and gain acceptance. This is in fact an after-the-fact request to permit a grant application with a match due in timing sequencing to our grantor and the fiscal year 20 budget review schedule. And at the next City Council meeting, the grant match, a $2 million loan authorization, will come forward at that time. Jim Destino, our CAO, indicated that if the grant is not forthcoming and notice is expected in June, the city would not move ahead with this project. But if the grant funding is received, it would be put against the total final amount of the city's long-term debt, which would bring the total portion for the city of $1.15 million, not the full $3.15 million, offset by the $2 million grant. And well, it's all, I've already moved.
All right. Councilors, Councilor Gilman and Councilor LeBlanc.
Yeah, through the chair, I'd love to ask our CAO, Jim Destino, if he could just explain how this is going to work in terms of the structure of this, because I think it's important for us to know. People in the community will ask us how it's going to work, and I'd love you to just tell us about it. It's important.
So as you know, there's been a lot of discussion around climate change and the rising tides, and how do we best use what resources we have and put them in the best to the best use. And you know, we've through Jill's department, community development, planning, we've been doing a lot of work with the municipal preparedness program. We have taken on infrastructure project like lifting sewer pumping stations. One of the biggest concerns is the high school property. It's a very valuable asset. If we had to rebuild that school for any reason, it would probably be in the hundreds of millions of dollars. So we believe it's the right time with leveraging this grant money to build this flood barrier, which will start way down by the science wing of the school on the canal and be built, you know, obviously down, and it'll be, if you see there's a fence in the softball field now, it'll be that high in certain spots, and then go all the way to the bridge, which, you know, which is a little bit higher, so that it'll go down. So it's going to be a steel structure, and, you know, there'll be obviously some landscaping to aesthetically make it look better, but it will run along the fence. So from the fence to where the canal is, the granite wall, seawall, there'll still be a walking path all the way down, back and forth. But there will be this flood barrier, which obviously you won't be able to look through. So it's going to be a little bit, obstruction there visually for folks to look at. But we believe it's the best way to, keep the life of that high school going for at least 30 to 40 to maybe 50 years without having to do any, lose any of the property or that asset, in a major storm event. It'll also protect the ball field, the football field that we've spent a lot of money on. We think this is important. Climate change is one of those issues that's really hard to get your head around, especially without state and federal help. I think that, this is a one step. We're going to pick our spots where we think we could, add the most value with our tax dollars. We think this is a smart move, especially if we can get the grant money. Like Chairman of BNF said, this is a quick turnaround. June 30th, they're going to be making the decision on this, so we will know. We've got June 3rd, I believe it is, right, Steve? Steve's going to have a meeting with community development and planning, get some of the constituents who are going to be affected by this, as we all will be to a certain degree, and start to, hear what they have to say about it. Hopefully we'll have, some more better graphics done by then, so you'll have a better visual of what it's going to look like. But We don't want to call it a wall. We want to call it a flood barrier because that's what it is. And it'll be driven down into the ground, into the bed, down to the bedrock. And another issue that Councilor Memhard brought up and sent a couple of emails out with us, 2 very interesting articles about groundwater and how when the rising tide comes up, doesn't it raise the groundwater on, which on this case would be on the school side as well. And so we're having our architect and engineers look at that. We thought it was a really interesting piece, but we don't think it really is pertinent to this because of the way the topography and where the way it sits right now. We think we're going to be okay, but we'll have further information for the public hearing when the loan order comes up next week. We're in front of you tonight, just asking for permission to apply for the grant. So,
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. Other questions for Councilor LeBlanc?
So the meeting is going to be at 6 o'clock Monday, this Monday, at the high school in the auditorium. I've been working with the mayor's office and the community development on the logistics of this. I reached out to Mike Hale this afternoon to put up the electronic sign at the high school to announce the meeting, so that way people in the neighborhood driving up and down will be able to see it. So everybody, if you want to shoot your emails, your constituents, or your social media accounts and stuff like that to share this information. I know the mayor sent out, I think, an email to maybe all of us today. I'm not sure if it went to all of us, but I got it. But she posted it on her social media. But 6 o'clock, Monday evening, Monday, June 3rd, at the high school. And hopefully we'll have a big crowd to see it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? So this is just a request to apply, so it's just simple majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Councilor Memhard?
The next item before us tonight from Budget and Finance, we voted unanimously 2 in favor, 1 absent, to recommend City Council in accordance with Mass General Law 44, paragraph 64, approve payment of a prior year invoice for the city's landfill monitoring at Magnolia Woods. The firm, our contractor is Tig and Bond. This invoice number is noted from last June for a total of $13,225. Fund fiscal year 2018, and the invoices to be paid with fiscal year 2019 general fund DPW services budgeted funds, and I so move.
Second. Moved and seconded. Pretty self-explanatory? Or?
Yes, this contractor is the current contractor within a contract to do ongoing landfill testing and monitoring, and unfortunately for our budget purposes, the DPW just received this last year's bill late, and the purchase order had already been closed, so this is a bookkeeping matter.
Any other questions? Okay, simple majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next.
Next item, unanimous motion from Budget and Finance, 2 in favor, 1 absent. We voted to recommend that the City Council approve a special budgetary transfer 2019 SBT 11 in the amount of $22,500 from Police Uniform Accreditation Incentive Account as noted to Police Uniform Repair and Maintenance Communications Equipment Account as noted. This is to be used for the purpose of funding repairs and maintenance on Police Department radio infrastructure in order to provide reliable communications amongst public safety officials, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Any other comment?
Chief Connolly is here. If you'd like to speak briefly to this matter, it was very clearly presented at Budget and Finance.
Chief?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is just to add additional funding to the $75,000 sum of money that we received from Senator Bruce Tarr's office. As like most things, we could get the radio system to this level, but just for a little bit more, we can get it to this level. But that level that this amount will get us to will significantly increase the radio transmission for the police department. It also creates a redundant system. So I think this, our contractors really believe that this will help solve all the dead areas within the city of Gloucester. So it's a big impact on us.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilor O'Hara.
Chief. You mentioned dead areas. How many are there?
So we don't know for sure because radio wave propagation is a difficult thing to put your thumb on. And so we have two ways of taking a look at it. One is just anecdotal, so we know officers down in some of the lower parts of West Gloucester and Lanesville, they're depending on atmospheric conditions, it's difficult to transmit from their portable radios, which are a lot less powerful than their cruiser radios. The other thing that we spoke about in that meeting is more important, even more important to that, is what I call the Christmas light effect. So if you think about old Christmas lights, when one light went out, the rest of them go out, right? And with our radio system currently in its current configuration, if one place goes out, it doesn't automatically kick over. If one site goes out, it doesn't automatically kick over to another repeater. What this project will allow us to do is what's called simulcast. The simulcast means that if Connellan Road goes down, and say in a storm, the other two receiver sites automatically pick up the burden of that receiver transmitter.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Chief. Budgetary transfer, just a simple majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next, Councilor Memhard.
Just a few left here. Budget and Finance voted unanimously to recommend that the City Council approve the Fire Department billing and collections policy as presented by the EMS Coordinator, Jonathan Sanger, and is approved by the Mayor dated April 30th, 2019, and further to approve the proposed fee schedule, which was attached and incorporated to the policy effective July 1, 2019, and I so move.
Second. Moved and seconded. Just an explanation.
I'd invite Chief Smith, if you'd like to come forward. Jonathan Sanger has taken over as EMT coordinator from Sander Schultz. He's doing a very able, fresh eyes on the job view, and he's bringing some enthusiasm to these sort of issues.
Yeah, he absolutely has. His apologies, he couldn't be here tonight. A good friend of his had a loss in the family, so he's taken time to spend with them. So the changes in the fee schedule that we put forward are actually pretty minimal, but they're very significant at the same time. They mirror what rates we're already charging at that same level of service, but this extends itself to services that we provide on scene but don't transport to the hospital. So this is not an area that's going to see a lot of frequency. A lot of the insurance companies aren't even geared up to pay this type of fee, but there are several that are already doing it. And it'll be probably a minimal impact on increasing our revenue, but it's an area in EMS that we've seen start to increase. If you've heard anything regarding community paramedicine, which is not what we're doing yet, but that is something that is out there. It's being done in numerous places across the country. And they're doing it really as a cost savings measure for the insurance companies, because instead of taking you to the emergency room and spending $10,000 on a visit, they're happy to spend a third of that on a visit by paramedics that typically came and picked you up to take you to the hospital anyway. So really it's a compounding situation. When we pick you up, you get our bill, then you get the ER bill, and they're looking to eliminate some of those ER bills to the best of their abilities. So this is a step in that direction. We do a significant number of treat and release, or treat and no transports as it's termed here already, with diabetics. And so you'll see this increasing as the future goes on, especially with telemedicine. I've got the app on my phone now. I can set up an appointment through Leahy to talk to the doc through the phone. So it's the ever-changing evolution of medicine as we know it, and we're definitely going to see the impact of that on the street.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions for the Chief?
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, this just requires a simple majority. What? Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't have a question. I just have a statement. I just hate writing this off because I know it's uncollectible and I know we do it every year, but...
That's next.
That's
That's next.
Oh, right.
Hold your fire. Hold your fire. Okay.
Eager beaver.
This is the new fee schedule to get more money, not to write off the bad debt. Okay.
Don't kill that on arrival, please.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next. Councilor Memhard.
let's see, Councilor LeBlanc was not present at Budget and Finance Committee, but we did vote unanimously, 2 in favor, 1 absent, to recommend that the City Council authorize the write-off, the unfortunate write-off, but the real write-off of a total of $319,857.58 in what are deemed to be uncollectible outstanding ambulance billing, and I so move.
Second. Moved and seconded. Now you can just give an explanation of that.
This is a familiar, painful subject, and I agree with the sentiment already expressed here. This is an ambulance write-off for uncollectible outstanding ambulance billings and fees, and it is lower than last year, so we've made some progress. The department is working studiously with their billing companies to gain more information and to make findings and billing transported patients' insurance companies better accountable. So we're gaining on this, and if you'd like to have the chief address it again, I certainly can. It's a familiar, painful topic, but we provided services and we're not always compensated at the full rate that we're billed.
Chief, if you wish. Not really. Okay.
Yeah,
say
I
something.
Share the sentiment. It's unfortunate, but it's just part of the EMS billing and really medical billing overall. There's just a certain level of debt that's going to be uncollectible for numerous reasons, either bad information gained on the street, for wrong name, wrong spelling. There's a lot of kind of legal barriers to that, and a lot of interoperability barriers between us and the hospitals. They don't want to share their information with us electronically, so we're kind of left to literally paper process, albeit through email and a scan, but they won't let our billing company interface with them electronically, which allows them to get better demographics and access to insurance to make that billing process a little smoother. So in many cases, if they gain information later that we don't know about, they just don't necessarily tell us about it, and our billing company chases it down to the best of their abilities, but it's not their patient. The individual's not in their system, so they don't have the continuous ability to reach back and get better information to make that billing happen. So some of it falls on that. Some of it are patients that just don't provide the information. They may be homeless. They may have moved on, and they're just not available to answer any mail. So there's just a level of uncollectible debt that there's very little we can do with it. I mean, we're at the point we're not even allowed to put your Social Security number on a patient care report because of the way the laws are structured, to help, again, protect all of us from fraud, unfortunately, but that throws a huge barrier at us getting the right and correct information to do legitimate billing. So it's a difficult thing. John has worked tirelessly to try to minimize this. He's done a pretty good job. He's adjusted the schedule that we're working on at this, so we have better timing to kind of wrap up when we close out the uncollectible debt and bring it forward through the mayor's office to you guys. So we're not doing it right up to the last minute, and he's got better accountability and more pressure that he's putting on the billing company to make sure that it's absolutely exhausted. So I think we're doing about all that we can at this point.
Thank you. Okay, councilors? Now, go ahead.
I would like somebody to write off my debt. Anyway, we do this every year. I know it's gone down considerable amount. I think when I first was here, we did this, and it was upwards of $600,000. It was quite a bit of money, so it's nice to see it getting down. I just still think that we still need to chip away at it here and there instead of writing it off, but that's just my opinion. So.
Yeah, and quite honestly, we have gone down several years ago, and Kenny can attest to this, that we've attempted the collection agency route, which we don't like it from our perspective. We're a public service, and we don't want to go beating on people's doors to, hey, pay the bill, right? On the other hand, we have to try to balance the scales and help fill that gap in the budget that providing the service can create. And the billing, the billing company's done a really good job collecting so well that when we hired a collection agency, they netted zero. They cost us zero, but they netted $0. So that was abandoned until there's additional evidence or Kenny comes up with, hey, this is a better way of doing it, and this is something that he looks at annually, that we're looking at annually, and John's looking at constantly. The poor guy thinks getting an ulcer over it, but you know, he'll get over it. He's still within his first year of the job. It kind of is what it is. So, you know, we're down considerably. We hope next year is going to be about the same level, nothing more, and we'll see how it goes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Councilor O'Hara?
This would be for Chief or Mr. Destino. As far as Gloucester compared to other cities or towns that have furnished their own ambulances, how do we rate?
We actually rate better than most. I attribute a lot of that to Sander and his development of the program over the years, and John's come in and kind of resharpened the knife, and it is honing it down even more. I mean, there's been things as he has found that the billing company, who has a stake in this game, they've got skin in the game. This is how they get paid. They're on a percentage fee, so the more money they bring in for us is how they get paid. So they work diligently to balance that scale for themselves. But there is areas of improvement that we've made, and we're actually ahead of most others. I can tell you right now that the city of Rockport, the town of Rockport is leaning heavily on John because we have interagency agreements with them for ALS Intercept and providing services for them in their ambulance when they're transporting, and our medics jump in to help them and bring that level of care up. And they're in a stone age compared to where we're at, quite honestly, and are most of the other communities around us. And there's not a lot of fire-based transporting ALS services in the area to compare ourselves with, but John has worked hand in hand with Beauport, and they have a very diligent billing process, and many of the other private ambulance companies, because it's difficult if you're running emergency services. It's pretty much a red bottom line. It's difficult to even break even in emergency response, especially in a demographic like ours where most of the payer mix is Medicare, Medicaid. So they pay maybe $400-500 at the most. I don't even think we've seen $500 on a bill for an ambulance fee that's in the $2,000 range, because that's the government rate. So,
Are there other companies that pursue you mentioned the billing companies? What's the name of the company?
Yeah, the company's Intermedics. They've just switched over to R1, so we've gotten all their notices and updates to the company name, and I believe they've merged with another company. And I know that Jim has talked to other communities, and he's kind of reach goes farther and wider than mine across the entire state. And from our discussion the other day, it sounds like they're a solid company. They're doing a good job, and we're even holding their feet to the fire and showing them some areas where they can improve. And they're one of the top billing companies out there. And fortunately for us, they're one of the less expensive companies.
So when you say less expensive, how's that translate to?
So they charge us they're charging us 3% of whatever they bring in on the billables and what they collect. Some companies out there, the company that I dealt with in Michigan, almost exclusively, they charge nearly 10%.
Mm-hmm.
And the differential between what they brought in and what we're paying is something that John, that's yet another reason I'm giving him an ulcer, so he's doing that comparison to see if we were to step it up to another company that might be the best company out there, but they're charging 10%, what's the net gain? Or are we actually going to lose money because, okay, they do a little bit better on collections, but they charge a lot more, and we're actually going to lose money. So what's the point? They keep us compliant with all the federal laws and regulations regarding doing EMS billing and ambulance billing. It's a pretty stringent process. That was the reason we jumped out of a local company, because they could not keep up with the regulations. They were not keeping us legitimate with federal agencies and doing the billing with them and the electronic nature of all that. So it was a good move with this company. We still have several years with the contract. There are out clauses if we find that they're not meeting the standards that we require, and that's top of his list right now to jump on, that he's cleared the deck for a lot of other things. That's the next one on his list, is to make sure that we are getting the biggest bang for our buck.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay. Well, just a simple majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Councilor Memhard?
Thank you. One final item, and it is ending Budget and Finance on a positive note, recognizing the acceptance of grants in the total amount of $749,635 through our Community Development Office. Budget and Finance voted unanimously, 2 in favor, 1 absent, that the City Council accept under Mass General Law 4453A, accept federal funds, federal grants in the amount of $662,525,000 for the Community Development Block Grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for program year 2019, fiscal year 2020, and also for the HOME, H-O-M-E, grant from the North Shore Home Consortium for the program year 2019, fiscal year 2020, in the amount of $87,110, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Yes, nice way to end. Any further comment?
This is a CDBG funding, and it's used for public services, public facilities, economic development, first-time home buyers, and housing rehab. It also pays for the administrative costs of some of the program, and these are all important programs within the community. Ms. Cahill reported that since she's come into her position at Community Development, we've worked hard to reorganize the program and use the funds appropriately as intended. So we're doing a good job on that, and Councilor Hecht and I both applauded her for that good work.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cahill. We appreciate that. And anybody else? Okay. Simple majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Any other items? Councilor Memhard, that's enough. Very good. Thank you. Madam Clerk, next order of business
is the Ordinance and Administration Standing Committee report of May 20th.
We have no matters for this evening.
Thank you. And then next order of business.
The Plan and Development Standing Committee report of May 22nd.
There were no matters for council consideration from this meeting.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next order.
The next matter is the public hearing 2019-025, Special City Council Permit 2019-004, Fuller Street, number 35, map 168, lot 14, Gloucester zoning ordinance, sections 1.9, 3.16, 3.2.2, and 1.7 for a special permit to exceed the maximum allowable building height, decrease the minimum lot area per dwelling unit, and decrease the minimum open space per dwelling unit in the neighborhood R20 district.
So I'll open the public hearing and advise that this public hearing is continued until June 11th. Madam Clerk, next order of business.
Next order of business is the update of the Tourism Commission by Council Representative Councilor Ken Heck.
Thank you. Tourism Commission. Good night.
Goodbye. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Take care.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's incredible.
Yeah.
The Tourism Commission, which has been dormant for quite a while, is really getting recharged. We've got 3 excellent members right now. Jill Cahill's doing a great job recruiting. I'm recruiting. We've got another 1 or 2 lined up that are going to join us. And we're in a heavy recruiting mode for very active people who really want to get a lot done and are very excited, hardworking, and diligent. And what has been really a big change is Elizabeth Carey of Discover Gloucester comes to our meetings now, and Ken Reel comes to our meet from the Chamber of Commerce. So basically, the way this kind of shapes up is the 2 pillars of strength right now are the Chamber of Commerce and Discover Gloucester. And the Tourism Commission is we're literally going to be before this council with a change in the ordinance that is going to change what the Tourism Commission does. Because some of the things they're doing are really now picked up by Discover Gloucester. So it's going to be a much sharper focused group with a smaller agenda, but hopefully more focused in terms of getting things done. So it's going in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we go to Councilor's request to the mayor, we have, I'll call it unfinished business. So I handed out to everyone earlier this evening the City Council motion that encapsulates the plaque that's on our wall right behind Councilor Memhard, which is the Ab Combati Extraordinary Performance and Service Award. And the reason I did this is We had a discussion last time, Councilor LeBlanc brought up perhaps that there were some, in Cox, some in Texera, and some individuals who may be worthy of awarding of this service award. And so just to refresh everyone's recollection, excuse me, the Combati Extraordinary Performance Service Award is awarded from time to time as City Council is seen fit by the Council to an individual group who has contributed to civic improvement by the City of Gloucester. In recognition of this extraordinary performance, a plaque hangs in the auditorium describing the name and purpose and the names of the recipients. Now it says further, the Council will award a personalized certificate to the individual or group. Nominations for the award may be made by City Councilors as well as members of the general public and will be reviewed for consideration by the Council. Following a vote by the Council to name an award recipient, recognition will be held. So our order provides for a nomination by councilors or members of the general public and a review by the Council and a vote by the Council. So I throw that out to our group as to how we should proceed, because we've had a couple of individuals, named as potential, but we have to go through the process. And I'm not sure if we make that as a councilor recommendation and refer it to O&A, or how do you guys think we ought to do that?
May I?
You may.
The last time we didn't do it at O&A, I think it was Jackie Hardy that brought forward the Ab Combati, dedicate the whole process to do this. And then we brought it up to council and we voted it in. Like I said, I don't think it went to O&A for discussion.
No, but the nominations that are made by us have to come somewhere, so.
Yeah, we can refer it to O&A, that'll be fine.
That's what I'm saying.
But we sent out the email. I don't know what the other names are, but we were talking about JD. I sent out a quick email the other day stating this. Not only does he come to every single meeting of all of ours, but he's quick to volunteer on certain things. He was a Gloucester High School track coach and he still is very active with the football teams and the track teams and all the scholastic sports and everything like that. So we just tossed it out there to have the discussion about nominating JD for this award, because I think that he's part of the fabric of the city. If you go back, 50 years, you probably see JD's name on things. So that was the discussion that some of us had real quick.
Right. Councilor Gilman, you raised your hand. Councilor Holmgren, you raised your hand. Sorry. I'm totally confused.
Who made those brownies?
Now, were you teasing me, Councilor Lundberg, or was that a slip?
I am 100% behind nominating JD for this award, and I don't care how we get there. I totally agree with that. Yep.
Well, I'm just, as part of our process, this is a nomination by councilors or members of the public, and it's reviewed by the council and then voted on by the council. Now, we didn't notice this at all, so nobody knows we're doing this tonight, and I'm not sure that's entirely proper either. I mean, I think, Councilor Gilman?
Yeah, I would be more comfortable putting it on an agenda. The other thing that I would feel more comfortable with is, rather than mention a name, we could just talk about the person's background without mentioning a name. I only say that because I remember that we did that with, I think, one of the namings. Oh, I remember it was the Bucky Rogers Little League field, and we didn't want to talk about his name in public because for whatever reason someone didn't agree. Of course, it was overwhelmingly supportive, but if someone didn't agree, it was kind of awkward to have the name out there, and then you're discussing a person, and that's kind of crazy. So I'm wondering, if we were to bring this back, put it on an agenda, if we could just talk about a person's background, clearly from a credential standpoint without mentioning a name. I just think that might be something we might want to consider. That's
well, I know what you're saying, and certainly if there's, we don't want to nominate somebody that some of us say, oh, we want to vote against that person. Right. However, our order says that there will be a nomination and there'll be consideration by the council and there'll be a vote of the award recipient. You can't really vote on somebody without naming them. We have to do that. So how we do that, that's why I'm open to suggestions on how we.
Well, that's why we're having this discussion.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, Joanne.
So I remember a little bit about this, that Paul McGarry is the first one who nominated someone, so I can look back and see how the procedure was done and circulate that. To my recollection, I seem to think it was a council order.
The council order?
I can't remember. I thought it was Jackie.
I think she initiated, didn't she initiate the process? But then after the first recipient to receive that, I believe, was through a council order.
Yeah, but we only have one recipient.
Yeah.
And that's Ab.
Yeah.
So.
And I think he's the one who put it through a council order to have the first, to have the first recipient as Ab Kambadi. So I can go back and look and see how the procedure was done.
So if it's a council order and we circulate that among the council, as part of our process, I think that we can be assured that if it is put on the consent agenda, it's going to have councilor support. In other words, a councilor could make a nomination, we'd circulate it.
And we'll have to look to see if it went to O&A. Well, let's see if it went to O&A, because I don't remember it going to a standing committee. I think it was a council order and it was just voted up here.
But I don't know how we do that.
Right. I don't think it went back, because I was on O&A when it...
He did an order and he just referred it to city council.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. If we,
Yeah.
if we were to do an order and refer it to the council, we circulate it.
Right.
And everybody has a chance to say that sounds like a good idea, then we stick it on the agenda and we
Okay, no,
vote for
that's
it, and
per-
then,
the
and then
process is-
and then we've accomplished
Right.
not embarrassing any of us.
I
or that
agree. I
person.
agree with
Okay.
the process we're talking about, but referring it to a standing committee to have a discussion about that person, I don't think is probably the
No, we
right
can
thing.
refer right to council.
Right to council,
A
exactly.
council order that we can refer right to council, but once you put the order in, we circulate it, we get it before it goes onto the public agenda, and that way everybody gets a chance. So let's try it. Let's try it that way. Okay.
And then, may I?
Yep.
And then what I think all of us as counselors should do after we figure out the process to do this, that if we all do a little bit of research on our own, so that way we can, when we come up here, if we all want to speak about something, we'll kind of narrow things down a little bit to how we want to present this to the person.
Yeah, good idea. Closed order.
Sure.
We can
Yes, that's fine. Yes.
All right, so yes, Councilor Hecht.
I guess a question and a comment. I see the downside of announcing the nominated name to be minimal and the upside to be big, meaning, in the meeting that evening, word gets out, or perhaps it's even allowed by the president, public comment, for a particular individual. I think it would be a positive from having the name out there earlier.
No, we would do just what you said.
Okay.
A counselor, just like today, like one of us proposes an ordinance, we circulate it. Before it goes on the consent agenda, sometimes we circulate it among each other, and everybody, oh, I want to join that, I want to weigh in, whatever. And then there's a consensus, and it goes on the consent agenda publicly with the person's name. By that time, we've vetted it.
Yes, and would the public be able to speak, not in favor or opposed, but would the public be allowed at that meeting to address?
Well, it would be for city council vote. It wouldn't be a public hearing, I don't
Right, I'm just asking, because there's a lot of people who probably would want to make comments, and it would be a great thing for the candidate. What I'm saying is to make this as big a positive for the candidate,
Yeah.
The administration and us would be
All
appropriate.
right.
Well, it's been a long time. It's been a long time since we did it, so that's why it's nice to bring up this process.
So why don't you work with Joanne, draft up an order that we can all look at, and then we can
Circulate
decide
it
how
out
it
and
goes
decide.
from there. But no, when it goes on the consent agenda, it's now public.
Yeah.
Joanne?
Can I just make a comment? So what happens is that after for a council vote, then at another, they wanted to get it done like within a certain amount of time. It was, they had another ceremony, and then that's when the public got up to speak about the person who was nominated. Yeah, after the vote, because they had a ceremony which they presented a plaque, to Mrs. Kambadi, and people did get up and speak about him. So
Yeah, we definitely do all that. Yeah. And it does, and the order does require a recognition ceremony will be held at a regularly scheduled meeting, so we'll coordinate all that. But, yeah, okay.
Sounds
And
good. Sounds like a plan.
some more of those brownies. Councilor Heck, do you have anything you want to wrap up with?
On Thursday, Mosaic Gloucester, which is the Americold building across from Dunkin' Donuts on Rogers Street at 5:30, is going to have the first panel erected of Mosaic Gloucester. So that monstrous wall, it's going to be in the shape of a fish. It relates a lot of stories. It's been, mosaics handmade by all different types of people, and there will be 3 of them put up, but one of them should be put up on Thursday. So after years of planning and labor, Thursday at 5:30 on Americold, one's going up. So it's fantastic. And then the only other thing I've got is next Tuesday, June 4th, at Cape Ann Museum is the movie Lobster War, which is very interesting. It's similar to Dead in the Water type of movie, but it's about the lobster industry in our city and state. So June 4th, 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Did you say where? The Cape Ann Seminar. Okay, Councilor. Oh, by the way, I've seen at the museum. I've seen that documentary. It's pretty awesome. It's really a great description of the life of a lobster, the lobster industry. Councilor Gilman?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Well, you gave us a lot tonight. Thank you. Councilor O'Hara?
Good job. We love you.
Councilor O'Hara? Councilor Holmgren?
I just want to thank Val again, really, thank you. And I also want to thank Mayor Taken and Cape Ann Veterans Services, Senator Tarr, Representative Ferrante, Congressman Moulton, Governor Baker, and every single veteran, JROTC member, Sea Cadet, and all the teachers for the wonderful job that they did at the Memorial Day ceremony yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Memhard?
2 items. The first, we were really blessed with a fantastic Memorial Day weekend weather-wise, and unfortunately in East Gloucester it landed with a real thump on Rocky Neck because the parking challenges this year seem to be worse than ever already. It was a real tough adjustment for the residents and restaurant goers to find adequate parking on Rocky Neck. And so just heads up, that's a challenge in front of us as the summer comes closer. The other item, the mayor was very proud to repost that Gloucester has been in the national news once more. Deborah Kramer, who is a recognized natural history author, has an article that has been published this month in the national edition of Audubon magazine. And this is featuring Good Harbor Beach's piping plover, the little lost family down on Good Harbor Beach.
Oh, wow.
And it talks about the saga of last year, which began in the parking lot because of all the challenges that the city has now stepped up towards facing, working with our Animal Advisory Committee, the Mayor's Office, and our own council, creating a more hospitable framework for our piping plovers' nesting environment while balancing the needs and demands of a busy urban city beach. So that was nice recognition for the city and gives us a pat on the back for accomplishment, stepped up to the challenge, and also what happens when we have 3 families next year or 5 families next year because of our success. So beware of success.
Councilor Nolan. Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you. I would like to make a request to the Traffic Commission to make Bertoni Road, York Road, and Foley Road a resident parking only neighborhood. We had a meeting recently and reached out to a couple of the neighbors that decided that this was going to be good for the neighborhood. Council order, okay. Just wanted to put it out there anyway. Another quick comment is tonight's meeting. I think we have a great council to come up here and laugh at each other and get some serious business done. It's fun, you know. Yeah, there you go. And the councilor Memhard, and not to take nothing away from Melissa, she does a great job at budget and finance, but you just bring another level when you do the get up here and do your motions. So, it's a great job tonight, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll have a motion to adjourn. So move second.